I am extremely, extremely blessed as far as having a great team as well, and as well as I think we're the first team to ever have three Teach Kentucky members on our team, myself and two others. And so that's just been phenomenal, having people that have similar experiences as you on your team. And for me, not and because we teams necessarily mean like one person from each subject is on a team. But when I think of a team, I think of a person across the hall that's also a math teacher. I mean, we literally do everything together. We plan together. Our classes do the same activities. And if it wasn't for her, I just, be lost. Because I mean, we're still young in the game. We still have a lot to learn. You learn so much from your first year, second year, but when you're talking to someone who's been doing this so much longer than you have, and they're just gonna know things that you don't know, and just because you haven't done it long enough. And so, just talking to them and working with her has just been phenomenal. And I think that, I usually am a relatively independent person and like to necessarily do things my way and on my own. But when you don't know what to expect or what you should do, because it's not like any other job in the world. It's not like there's some protocol that you're following and then that's what you do. I mean, you have to. It's one of those jobs where you just have to feel it out, and you got to make those mistakes to learn. But if somebody can give you an idea and somebody can help you, it just makes things that much easier. For me, it was just literally walking across the hall and be like, "Hey, I haven't done this as long as you have. What are you guys doing? What are we planning to go? Where, things of that nature." I went and found them just because it's just stupid to think that you're going to be able to do this, and it's stupid to think to just sit there if you don't know something and just sit there and try to figure it out. Always ask questions. So for me, it was definitely going and just finding them, and they are helpful. That's the thing, is like no one's going to say no, I don't have time for you, or I don't want to do this. And you can tell who kind of wants to help you and who's more approachable and who's kind of like, okay, maybe I shouldn't bother them or things of that nature. So I think, first off, just finding someone who's at least been doing it a little longer than you have, or even there was another situation where another first year teacher and I bonded because we were going through similar experiences. So it doesn't always have to be someone that's that much more experienced than you. It can be someone who's going through the same thing as you, and finding that common ground and bouncing ideas off each other and just feeling comfortable with the fact that, hey, this person's doing this for the first time too. So I'm not gonna feel stupid if I say something and it's just totally wrong, because they're in their head it's the same thing. So I think definitely being proactive about it, seeking people out, feeling out your staff. Because there's honestly certain people you just aren't going to learn that much from. There's in every building, there's going to be certain teachers that have already just established their stuff. They're just kind of hanging out toward retirement, and I think that's true of any job. And those aren't the people you want to approach. You want to approach the people who are still trying to change their lesson plans up, still trying to make gains, still trying to do different things and with their content, even though they've been teaching it for like 20 years. I would say that's probably next to classroom management. That's definitely the second. I think that's the second most difficult thing as a first year, now second year teacher. Um, and it's hard to do this, but if you can do it in advance, starting out early always helps. I think for me at least, working in Shelbyville, we have these things called professional learning communities where we're required by the district to submit our lesson plans in a formal format. So that forces you to kind of plan ahead of time because they're due. Like you have to turn them in. Uh, After that, I think it comes down to planning ahead and just over planning, because you never want to be stuck with not enough stuff to do with your kids, because kids and nothing to do is by far the worst combination ever. It's like gasoline and matches. Don't ever have kids with nothing to do, because they're not gonna you're just gonna lose it. Like you'll lose control of the classroom and something's gonna happen. So always over plan, do it ahead of time. Look at make sure I mean, and this is in the ideal word, but if you can make your test before and then plan your lesson. You want to teach what you want the kids to know for your test. You want to be able to know, okay, here's the problem on the test. This is what I should teach for them to make that bridge to be able to do this problem. So if you can, what I try to do is make the assessment or the test before you plan your lesson out, because that way you know exactly what you're expecting them to know, and you won't have any problems like, missing content or things of that nature, because you're making the test, you're teaching the class. They should be able to walk over that bridge to get to be able to do that problem. When you are doing assessments, like I said, first designing the questions is the first. When you're planning it, at least this is what we do. When we do a unit, the first thing we do is make our unit assessment. What we do is we go to the core content, look at the standards that Kentucky has for mathematics, and look at them, and it literally states what they want your kids to know, what your kids should be able to do, and it's literally phrased, students will be able to, use the Pythagorean theorem or something like that. I'm a math teacher, so, and from there, taking that, using different resources in your classroom. It doesn't have to be textbooks. I mean, I've literally went on Google and typed in Pythagorean theorem questions, looked there, and then pooling all those questions together, and then going through and making sure that you're hitting exactly what students, like what it says in the core content, what the state wants the student to be able to do, making sure that that question is accurately testing that, and if they can do that question, that means the standard is covered. I think that's a lot of times where the people lose it, is they just see the concept and the name of the concept, like Pythagorean theorem, and they just assume that they can just design problems about Pythagorean theorem and that's good enough. Being flexible too, I think having places, where there is a varied amount of time, when you get, the lesson changes, it's like a living, breathing thing almost. The lesson's gonna change even as the day goes on. I mean, you're gonna teach a lesson first period, and that might just totally blow up in your face. Make sure that the lesson is flexible enough so that you can change it and somewhat modify it, so that when second period comes around, you're not making those same mistakes that you just made in first period. And I've had lessons that literally, besides the actual physical work that they do, have been completely different by seventh period that started out a certain way, first period. So I think having flexibility in lessons is extremely important. And not being afraid to make a mistake. Don't feel like if you write something down or put it in your lesson, you can't take it out. I mean, because it's gonna change, and you're gonna get better at it. And I know for me, I was a very structured, and I think it's good to be structured, but have some flexibility in there. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that you can change it, that it's not set in stone.